comments from council members? Start with Ms. McCoy.
I just wanted to make it perfectly clear. I have not made up my mind. I'm reading everything I can lay my hands on so I can make a reasonably intelligent decision on this issue. And I understand what Mr. Boyd is saying, and it's very hard. The medical marijuana issue has got tied up with the recreational. But at the moment, I'm just waiting to see. And as I said, I'm willing, I've read everything that's been brought before me, and I've read other, the other things that have come across my desk. And I am concerned because I have seen one particular small mountain town where with a population of about 10,000 people, they have 7 dispensaries and counting, Colorado. And their laws apparently don't seem to regulate them, and those are supposedly medical marijuana clinics. Well, in a town that high up in the mountains with only 10,000 people, that seems excessive, and so that gave me pause for thought. But as I said, my mind, as far as I'm concerned, is open on this issue, and as I said, I'm willing to wait. I do not want to put the city in the position, you know, I'm waiting for the Anaheim decision to come forward before we move. So.
Can you take Ms. Bragg first, please?
Sure. Ms. Bragg?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, if I could ask our city attorney to address a couple of issues. Thank you. Ms. Lyon, if you could, on the staff report, on page 2, from, not the continuation of the paragraph on page 1, but from paragraph 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then over onto page 3, if you could kind of go through that. I mean, there's some things in there, like it says, the legislature could change these limits over time, so valid ordinances passed by cities could become invalid at the legislature's whim. What does all this mean? Briefly.
Well, as I mentioned, the initiative does contain the language that local agencies will be allowed to adopt regulations. However, it contains another provision that says the state legislature will adopt regulations to tell the cities how they can regulate for the most part. So what we're saying is if the initiative passes for recreational use, the state would probably then be proposing some regulations about how the cities can regulate. And potentially they could change their regulations, which would, if we adopted an ordinance, they could change their position on it, which means we would have to go make amendments too. And I think, you know, to be clear, we're not necessarily saying that, we know there's 2 separate issues there, the recreational and the medical marijuana. The recreational is an interesting issue, and because it has this local agency regulations, there could be more input from this that would potentially affect, or at least give the council some direction or thought policy-making process to go forward with the medical marijuana regulations. We're not necessarily saying that they'll go at exactly the same time. I envision if the council gives direction to extend this moratorium, I still envision if the Anaheim case gets decided and some of the city of San Diego's regulations, maybe the county of San Diego's regulations, council will continue to get updates. I'm not saying nothing is going to occur between the extension of the moratorium and November when the election is decided on recreation. There will continue to be updates to the council. If the council is ready to move before November or immediately after November, because it knows that some of what happens on the recreational may take further time to play out, that can still be before the council. I think right now, just with some of the uncertainty with the Anaheim case, and as I mentioned, the city of San Diego kind of fleshing this issue out, the county of San Diego fleshing this out, it's something for the city of Imperial Beach to watch and determine what is in the city of Imperial Beach's best interest on how to regulate medical marijuana. I think that probably summarizes those sections as I mentioned.
Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate Mr. Boyd's frustration on this because I know he wants to provide service to people. Unfortunately, we can't necessarily cater to just one individual in crafting an ordinance. It's going to be covering however we handle this issue in Imperial Beach. I do think, I think it was stated by the attorney as well and by Mr. Boyd that the recreational and the medical are really different, I think, in how they're going to need to be addressed by ordinance. They're two different animals completely. In my mind, maybe I'm not seeing it clearly, but they certainly seem different to me. I want to ask the city attorney regarding a moratorium, if we were to institute or extend the moratorium for a period of 1 year. That does not mean that we can't come forward at any time and say we're ready to go ahead and enact this ordinance, does it?
No, you can adopt an ordinance the next month after we extend the moratorium. It just gives the city more time so that it's not under the gun right now to adopt these regulations.
Thank you. I support that idea, and also I don't know if we have, I was reading the response to the county's ordinance from the ACLU, and I thought their comments were very well placed. They were very accurate. They cited legal, what looked to me like good legal precedent very clearly, and I wondered if we work with the ACLU or with the Americans for Safe Access in terms of crafting our ordinance, or if we get input from them.
I think when we get to the point where council gives the direction that they want to start moving forward, they're ready to start getting ideas on an ordinance, we will probably submit to you several different ideas. I haven't heard that the policy direction is to follow what the county is doing. So I think the council, we will submit different variations from various cities, probably around the state of California, as well as ideas from the ACLU, and then the council can guide us on what you want. You are the policymakers. You tell us what you want, and we'll put that into an ordinance.
Okay, and perhaps I'm heard it incorrectly previously when Mr. Lowe was our attorney here. I thought that he was starting on some preliminary draft of some ordinance. Are we progressing on that at this time?
I have not progressed on that in the last 2.5 months since I've become the city attorney. If that's something that this council wants to give direction on, that we continue, and maybe as part of setting the next date for the interim report, if you want to see a draft ordinance at that time, that's something we can do in a very draft form at that stage. Or, if you want to appoint a council subcommittee, whatever your wishes are.
Okay. My only final comment is